Hello, I thought I'd touch on some employment law topics that typically are brought up when a face-to-face class discusses this topic. And employment law is a very important component to human resource management because it impacts just about everything that we do in HR. We've always got to be cognizant of, is there some type of rule, regulation, law that would allow us to do something or something that we would be violating if we were to take a certain type of action. And so employment law is very important, and I thought we'd address some of these issues as we go forward. In the book, it talks about the EEOC. EEOC.gov is the website, and that's the federal agency that's charged with enforcing different federal discrimination laws that typically apply to employers who have 15 or more employees. And that'd be things like race, color, religion, sex. That also includes pregnancy, age, disability, genetic information, just to name a few of them. And that relates to the terms and conditions of employment. And so anything from hiring and firing, pay and benefits, promotions, harassment, those types of issues. If someone believes that they've been discriminated against and they file a case with the EEOC, they typically have 180 days from when the event took place before that expires or the statute of limitations runs out. If there's also a state or a local law impacting that same issue, it then expands to 300 days that they have to file such a claim. On the EEOC's website, they do detail the different areas that they're charged with enforcing, and they also have a number of things on there like statistics. If you look at those statistics, it's not uncommon that none of those areas, race, color, religion, national origin, sex, disability, genetic information, those types of things may very well not even be the highest rate of incidence on their website. Ironically, it's often retaliation that gets the most amount of claims. It's important to note that even if you are not guilty of discrimination, you can still be found guilty of retaliation. So a lot of that comes into play with timing of things. It's not uncommon. You have a supervisor or manager, they have a problem employee, they're hoping it's just going to go away or resolve itself, which it rarely does, and so they have put off any type of discipline and they have reached their limit. They're fed up and they come to HR and they say, John Jones, he's a terrible employee, he's done all these horrible things, he never works, he's always late, he's always tardy, we need to get rid of him. Well, ironically, that employee just filed a claim of discrimination, or maybe they filed a workers' comp claim, and even if they are a terrible employee and it would otherwise warrant termination, if it follows this claim of discrimination or filing a workers' comp claim, it's going to give the perception that it's some type of retaliation. So that's why it's important that working with managers and supervisors that you have a consistent discipline policy and you address things right away, because you never know what can happen. The Department of Labor is the federal agency dealing with employment laws. A lot of them have information on the website there, including things like the e-law advisors. That's a helpful tool for small employers who maybe don't have their own HR person. They can check and see, do these laws apply to me, and if so, what does that mean I should do? There's also the Department of Workforce Development, that is the state component of that for the state of Wisconsin, and both of them also include things like labor law postings, that every employer is responsible for posting employment law posters that you can find online for free, or you can purchase them from some vendors, but I would caution you, some of them try and really sell you a bill of goods and say, oh, it's only $180 a year. You can print them off one by one free online, and there's plenty of other vendors that you can get an all-in-one laminated poster for around $30. Students are often surprised, and we'll talk in class, and somebody will say, my employer did this. Can they do that? And that's where we have to take a look at, is there a law that covers this issue, yes or no? And that's often going to give us the answer that we're looking for. That often in class I would throw out, oh, what kind of breaks does an employer have to give its employees? And you'll get a variety of answers. Oh, they need to give them 2 15-minute paid breaks and 1 half-hour unpaid break. Somebody else will say, no, they have to give them a 10-minute break in the morning, a lunch break, and a 10-minute break in the afternoon, and a variety of responses. And people are shocked to find out, unless you're under the age of 18 and you work 6 or more hours, an employer is not required to give you any breaks, including even a bathroom break. Now, just because you can doesn't mean you should. That we all recognize if we didn't give our employees bathroom breaks, what kind of employer would we be? But people are surprised there is no law that requires employers to give people breaks or to give them vacation or sick leave, unless you're in certain municipality areas that might have their own state or local law. I do have a list here from SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM.org, and that's the largest professional organization dedicated to the human resource management field. It has over 200,000 worldwide members, and as an HR professional, my membership to this is $180 a year. Students can get a student membership for $40 a year because they want to get students involved in recognizing the value of those resources. You can access a lot of information, or depending on the number of clicks that you have, a fair amount of information off this website for free, and there are other areas that you do have to input your membership number in order to access the full amount of information. But you can see there's a large number of laws here, and this isn't even all inclusive, but looking at things that employers must deal with. And so taking a look at the exam, I've already told you that case names aren't going to be included in there, but there has been some landmark cases in the last year that maybe you've read about in the news. UPS had a pregnant employee that they told once she was getting later in her term of pregnancy and could not lift heavy boxes. They said, sorry, you're going to have to come back after you have the baby. She filed a suit, went all the way to the Supreme Court, and UPS used to give people that had other accidents or injuries accommodations for short-term disabilities. Somebody broke their arm or something, they'd work with them, but they wouldn't work with pregnancies. And the Supreme Court said pregnancy is just like any other short-term disability. Another one that's been pretty popular would be Abercrombie and Fitch, and they had a few different cases, and the crux of it was an employee wearing a hijab or a headscarf. They even had an employee that was working in the back in the stockroom area, and she would color coordinate her hijabs to her Abercrombie and Fitch outfits, and they indicated that this was not acceptable and it violated their look policy. The Supreme Court took this case up as well, and in their arguments, Abercrombie's defense was, we didn't realize she was wearing this hijab for religious reasons, and fortunately the Supreme Court said, that's a bunch of baloney. We don't believe you, because why else would she be wearing it? And they did say that you do have to make that kind of religious accommodation. The only time you wouldn't have to make a religious accommodation for something like a hijab would be, say you have an assembly line or some area where safety would be a concern. That would be a time where you could go ahead and not allow someone to wear something like that. There's a lot of information in this chapter. If there's anything you would like me to explain further, feel free to let me know. Employment law is a fantastic topic, and it's very interesting. And I would encourage you to explore items and websites related to this and see what else you can find of interest.